Article 14 meeting of the NVTC Program Advisory Committee. I'd like to note that we're starting the meeting at 8:40 a.m. NVTC staff followed the procedures and guidelines to give notice to the committee, commission staff, and the public about the committee meeting today. We're back to normal, in quotation marks, in-person meetings. The meeting is simultaneously being broadcast to the public on YouTube. The only visual component of the meeting is the presentation slides, which are being shown on the YouTube stream. The meeting presentation was posted on NVTC's website yesterday afternoon. We'll now ask Alan Fye, NVTC's Director of Programs and Policy, to call the roll to identify commissioners and NVTC staff present on the call. Alan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two committee members participating virtually. We already know the status of that. We'll see if that changes as the meeting goes on. So you can respond here when you hear a name. Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer. Mr. Faust.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Here.
All right, staff that are in the room at the moment: NVTC Executive Director Kate Mattice, myself, Alan Fye, Commuter Choice Program Manager Ben Nolan, Transit Technology Program Manager Patricia Hack, Transit Resource Center Program Manager Xavier Harmony, and NVTC IT and Web Resource Manager Melissa Walker. Mr. Spear.
Okay, thanks a lot. And as we all know, Melissa Walker is the most important person in the room. So thanks a lot. We do not have a quorum, which means we will not be taking action until a quorum is established. We have a summary of the February 23rd meeting of the Program Advisory Committee. Any comments on that? Okay, thanks. Next item on the agenda is the latest on our I-66 Commuter Choice Program. We'll ask Ben Owen, the Commuter Choice Program Manager, to identify staff's recommended programming projects for fiscal year 2023-2024 funding, which staff is seeking our endorsement. Well, if we had a quorum, it would be an endorsement. It will be just a discussion. Then Ben will highlight staff's public engagement plans for the funding round. We'll also receive updates today on NVTC's regional fare collection coordination efforts, regional zero emission bus working group, and the Envision Route 7 bus rapid transit project. I'll now turn things over to Ben for the Commuter Choice presentation. Ben?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Over to you, Ben.
All right. Off we go. Thanks for joining us today. As the chair mentioned, we'll go over our staff recommended program projects for I-66 Commuter Choice FY 23-24 funding today, and share some details about our forthcoming public comment period, which will kick off tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know if you all, I guess you all are going through slides in front of you there. So onto the program development scores and funding availability slide. So when we met last in late February, we just completed our eligibility review of all of the submitted applications. Since then, we have scored the 9 projects under consideration for funding per our approved technical evaluation process. And you see the summary results on this slide, as well as more detail in the large handout table. So we did share these scores with applicants last month just to kind of vet them, verify we didn't miss anything in regard to anticipated benefits that we consider in our evaluation process. So the detailed handout kind of breaks things down by evaluation criterion. I'll just talk through those real quick. They are pretty much the same as they've been the last few rounds, but most of the possible points, 70 of 100, come from technical merit factors, basically getting at how effectively each proposed project addresses the corridor improvement goals in the I-66 MOA. So to get the most possible points here, a proposed project would efficiently move more people in its opening year. That's the most important factor. It would also save commuters travel time relative to driving alone, connect different modes of transportation, link regional activity centers, and absorb trips that might be priced onto parallel arterials as a result of tolling. The second factor, annualized cost effectiveness, basically a comparison of the total technical merit score to the requested commuter choice funding per year of benefit that the investment would provide. So kind of an upshot here for long-lived capital projects that happen to do well on technical merit as well. Applicant preference, 10 points. Each applicant can identify their top priority of their applications and receive those points, 10 points for it. And then interagency collaboration, basically looking at whether a project was coordinated with other jurisdictions or agencies in the region. So that's kind of the scoring piece of the picture. kind of the other main consideration in, what we've looked at with forming a program is funding availability. So the total funding request across these 9 applications is about $22 million. Our current and conservative estimate is that there will be about $14 million available in the fiscal year 23-24 period.
If I could,
I will
just
pause.
for a moment, Mr. Meyer has joined us. Thank you, sir.
Great.
We just got started.
Mayor Meyer, you have never been more popular.
I've been volunteered.
Yeah, we didn't tell you about that, did we?
So if it's a procedurally, if we could let Ms. Garvey and Ms. Bagley know that we do have quorum, so they are invited to participate as necessary and as desired on this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And can I now say I'm present for the roll call?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Thank you very much. So,
Hey, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ben, you want to continue?
Sure. So just, I was on slide 4 or 5 or so in the
And also then
presentation
referencing
printout
the
there.
fifth chart
Yes.
that you have with your
All right.
table.
Just going through the scoring results for our fiscal year 23-24 I-66 applications. Thank you. Yeah. So I just kind of mentioned, the evaluation criteria we have, same we've had in the last few rounds. Most of the possible points come from looking at how well proposed projects meet the improvement goals of the I-66 MOA, moving more people and basically creating viable, effective transportation options. So besides the scoring, funding availability, I mentioned we have $22 million in funding requests across these 9 applications. Conservatively, about $14 million available, comprising some carryover balance, a modest amount of inside the Beltway toll revenue from VDOT. As we kind of talked about last time, we're being very careful with this source. It's just kind of starting to come back up, but not to a large number yet. We'll see what happens with hopefully more of an upswing in commuting over the coming weeks and months. And then outside the Beltway, concessionaire payment installments as well for the new express lanes there. So it is certainly possible by the end of fiscal year 24, there'll be more money in the bank than this. I think given our desire to be pretty careful with it, we would propose to kind of use any surplus we get for the next I-66 cycle for fiscal years, there'll be 25 and 26. Once we kind of see what the full funding picture actually looks like.
And just to confirm, no money goes away. It basically is sat in reserve to be used for future years. So it's not a use or lose situation.
Cool. Would you like to stop for any questions thus far or roll into the recommended program?
Let's go into the recommended program.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Apologies all. I was just wondering, can you speak briefly to the applicant preference? It seemed to be fairly dispositive here of what came in above and below the line, and I'm just new and was wondering, would you mind just giving a moment to that factor?
Sure. So applicant preference basically allows each applicant to pick their top priority of the applications they're submitting. So, in the case where an applicant is submitting 5 projects, the application and the board resolution indicate like this is our kind of priority order of them for funding consideration. So, or, in terms of what they see as their top priority. So the top priority in that list would get 10 points under that criterion.
And so if I understand, it's a 0 or it's a 10. There's not a, okay, it's 0. And then if you only have one project per jurisdiction, it's a 10.
Correct, exactly.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
And can I ask who the judges are that make the scores? Who determines the scores?
We as staff do. We work with a team of technical consultants. Kimley Horn, they've worked with us for basically since the program was created.
The Metro say that is only 3 points less than a funded project above it, and there's more than $2 million that not spending. Well, why did you not?
Yeah, so basically the recommended goes down to the Prince William County project, cumulative $12.4 million funding request. We are working to determine what our funding needs are for program administration for the 2 years also. So that will take it a little bit higher than that. that would encompass our oversight of everything that's been funded to date under the program, as well as future, administrative activities, next call for projects, things like that. It is a small difference. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, and a very small difference, and the money's almost there. I would just ask that before we vote on this as a commission, that you sharpen the pencil, you say 14.1 million is a conservatively expected to be available. Give us your best estimate of what will be available.
Mhm.
So we have enough time to do that budget.
Okay.
Thanks. Go ahead, Ben. Keep
Okay.
going.
Great. So the recommended program, kind of let the cat out of the bag already, but what we were proposing was the 6 top scoring projects, as well as our program administration. What's in that program? So there are 2 long-lived capital investments that benefit commuters in the corridor for decades to come. These are the top 2 scoring projects. They would leverage between them a total of over $160 million in other federal, state, regional, or local funding that's been committed or is expected to be in place soon. Also, continuation of 3 established commuter bus routes. We are starting to see rebounding ridership on these routes. 2 of them are OmniRide services that would use the outside the Beltway express lanes once those open, leading to faster and more reliable travel. And then a half fare campaign that's also looking at OmniRide commuter routes originating in Western Prince William County and going into Arlington or DC. Basically, to help kind of juice ridership for the first months that the outside the Beltway lanes are open, helping build on that ridership that is starting to come back up. So it is kind of a cautious program in terms of funding levels, looking at what we can reasonably accommodate, projects with either a history of performance previously or where the overall benefits could be measured in decades. But this is a program that would offer significant benefits to the region as well. So one of the things we did for the first time this time around was look at projected reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and fuel savings associated with the proposed program. So these 6 recommended projects, if you look at, kind of taking representative trips that would use them, shifting from driving alone to using the projects, they would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 84% for that travel and save over $2 million in annual fuel costs for commuters. So this was kind of a VMT-based estimate looking at representative commute trips. And then we applied factors from a nationally recognized tool called the California Life Cycle Benefit Cost Analysis Model, or CalBC. It sounds complicated, but it's actually a pretty straightforward Excel tool with various emissions factors for different speeds and different types of vehicles. And we are preparing a more detailed technical memorandum, kind of detailing how we did that if that's something that would be of interest for you to see. So, looking at VMT, we've estimated 16 million fewer miles per year switching from driving alone to using these projects, and 83,000 hours of travel delay. We are seeing travel time starting to go back up, and even as we were doing this analysis, we were finding waiting an extra week resulted in longer travel times on Google Maps than the week before. So definitely volumes are picking back up. And we estimate these 6 projects would account for about 4,000 weekday trips in the I-66 corridor. So I guess I'll stop if there are any questions, discussion on the program, besides what Mr. Faust mentioned.
Yeah, any, yes.
I really like this statistics you put in.
Yeah, we call it the tapas platter.
I have a question. So on TDM strategy, as you can imagine, we are all really focused on how well TDM works and how can we make it work even better. So how do we measure the vehicle miles impact of that? How can we attach to the $650,000 a vehicle miles?
Yeah. So there's a throughput estimate associated with the project. Like Prince William County estimated that doing this half fare buy down campaign would result in 200 additional riders each morning on the 5 OmniRide services that originate in the western part of the county. It's a total of like 30 or 35 bus trips inbound each morning across the 5 routes. So from that, we can kind of estimate, assuming those people are shifting from driving alone, we can kind of estimate the distance those people would be going if they switch from driving to taking the bus instead. Basically double that for the course of the day, annualize it for the course of the year. That was kind of the approach we took with this. With TDM projects, we have kind of refined our eligibility criteria so that, you know, looking at things where we can directly count, like this person took advantage of this campaign and used this service, as opposed to something more, you know, kind of generalized that would require like a surveying effort or something like that.
And from time to time, we check on the efficacy of that. So we report on this, right?
Yeah, we require annual performance reports from all of our funding recipients, kind of looking at measures that get at how well projects are performing relative to those expected throughput targets.
Okay. Thank you. I'm really interested in how to measure TDM advance. I think we have evolving thinking in this. You know, this is mostly a voluntary thing we try to induce, and maybe we have to think about trying to, you know, put soft pressure on people to transit.
I think we're kind of in the money talks camp with this sort of thing. Put incentives out there, you can see what the uptake is.
Okay, thanks a lot. Other questions, comments? Kate, are you looking for a formal?
Question, Mr. Chair?
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yep, two things, which I think I heard you say, Ben, that we're monitoring all along to find out how good our data is, and if we change the, you know, better. Yeah, great. I see your head nod. And then, really basic question. I think I remember, but I'm not absolutely sure. The top two scoring, I cannot see the material. I'm not able to, for whatever reason, I haven't been able to access the materials or see them. What are the top two scoring projects?
Yeah, so the order of projects in the recommended program: City of Manassas Park, Manassas Park VRE Station Parking Garage, that had a $2.5 million funding request. Then Arlington County's Ballston Metro Rail West Entrance Project with a $4.5 million request. Then we have the 3 bus service renewal projects, 2 OmniRide and 1 Fairfax County.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of remember. I just wanted to verify that the Arlington Ballston project, because we've had, you know, a lot of issues with that and had to postpone it. So thank you so very much. That's the answer I wanted to hear, Beth. Thank you.
Great.
Anybody have any other questions? Kate, are you looking for formal action on this, or you wanted a discussion?
So there's no need for a formal vote. However, as we'd like to bring this forward, and I do want to make sure that we provide, we'll staff will have how to, we want to talk about, I'll talk back to the staff about adding that additional project, what that looks like. But just knowing that when it's presented, again, no vote at the commission meeting in May, it's presented for the first time, that'll just say that the PAC discussed this, you know, and, you know, at the meeting. The vote by the commission, we do a little bit more time, which is great, is actually the June meeting. So this is introducing, it is currently also out for public comment, or will be, I'm sorry, following this meeting. So that's the other thing, is making sure that what we've included on this list will be available to the public for public comment. And that public comment period goes to the middle of May.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, let's motor through that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Kate just laid out what the next steps are. And
Yeah,
anything else to
basically.
add on that?
One thing I'll just highlight is we are publishing materials in both English and Spanish this time around.
Okay.
And, you know, looking for other ways to, we've simplified our survey form to hopefully get some more input. Yeah.
Okay, and Kate, I guess if commission members have any questions or thoughts about this, they can feel free to submit them to you.
Absolutely, we would encourage that.
So this list now, the full 9 program list goes out to the public.
Correct, all 9 of them.
Will
Yeah.
they get the sort of the staff recommendation at this point that we've seen, or not?
They won't get the staff recommendation. They will get descriptions of the projects as well as the scores.
But everything that has been applied for is what the public comments on.
Right,
correct?
yeah.
All right, so this is just an initial look at the staff recommendation, but the full set of projects will go out to the public.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the commission's decision. What the projects are eventually approved.
Okay, I have 2 other questions. With VRE ridership down so much, how do you project? You don't need to answer that today, but how do you project the value of a VRE related parking garage at this point? Number one. And number two, I think because of the framework of this program, things like trails and other sort of more local things end up being rated low. So I wonder if that isn't something that the commission might take a look at. In the future. What are the parameters that are set for this program, and do we want to continue those parameters in the environment in which we exist with DRPT and other players, right? So that can be something we can talk about in the future as well, but that sort of drives the ranking. Okay, anything else on this? Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Next item is the Transit Technology Program. And Patricia, you're on.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. I am the Transit Technology Program Manager, and I'm here to talk to you about two aspects of the Transit Technology Program, which are the Regional Fare Collection Program and the Zero Emission Bus Program. And so first of all, you turn to this page about the Regional Fare Collection Program. So our work, NVTC's work, is guided by the Regional Fare Collection Strategic Plan, and you see a nice little picture there of the strategic plan. And we worked with the regional partners to develop this strategic plan, which outlines 13 actions to guide the strategic actions for regional partners, to support regional partners on fare collection activities. And so I'm going to just outline some of our accomplishments in the Regional Fare Collection Program. So first of all, strategy, as I mentioned. Next is we created forums for regional partners to collaborate and exchange information. And this, we run two working groups. One of them is a Regional Fare Collection Working Group, which meets monthly, and the other one is the all-door off-board Fare Collection Working Group, which works on BRT fare collection and meets quarterly. We also have supported the bus fare box state of good repair and modernization through the DCU upgrade program, as well as the program for design, development, and implementation of new fare boxes. And those fare boxes are currently being built and have been ordered by regional partners through the support of NVTC. And those are expected to come online sometime early next year. We also expanded opportunities for mobile payments, working with WMATA and their contractors to on the Smart Trip mobile. And we also have worked with VRE on their mobile app. We also conducted zero fare and reduced fare research. We have a white paper that is on our website that we produced in 2021. And we promoted regional pass acceptance for things like the university pass, and also coordinated funding and procurement. So we worked with regional partners and WMATA to put contract riders onto for purchasing fare boxes and other support and services to support the region. And we provided technical assistance during WMATA's fare collection upgrades. And this technical assistance is supported through a DRPT grant, which is, which is sort of coming to its end. And so we're currently working with regional partners to support them and provide sort of a forum for discussions on the future needs and priorities on how to best support the regional partners moving forward in the fare collection program. Next, I'll talk about the zero emission bus program.
Any questions before you go? Any questions about
Sure.
the fare collection program? Yeah.
I have just a small one, just from my understanding. The new fare boxes, what's the big difference to the old fare, except for the technology of accepting mobile, etc.? For example, can they be distributed inside a bus so that you have 2 or 3 and people boarding from different doors?
Yes,
What?
so they can support rear door boarding. And what they do is they separate the validator, which is the part that you tap
Yeah.
your phone or your pass on, from the fare box, which is the part that takes the money. So those are now separate items.
So basically, the idea is to have, for those who use, proximity validation or for proximity tickets, they can use any fare box inside the box or any reader inside the bus, while cash will be only one. That will be- okay.
Correct, yeah. Cash will be at the front.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just highlight one of the things that Patricia mentioned. So we were actually very fortunate to have support from the state to help with a lot of very intense, a lot of this work was very intense collaborative work across our region. We're at a pausing point, and so Patricia is working with the regional partners to see, is there additional need moving forward so that we can look next year to DRPT for additional support. So in some ways, this is putting a pin in something you may see going forward as this current technical assistance, sort of slows down, wraps up. Is there a need to have ongoing technical assistance? And so that's something that is a part of this.
Thanks. Any other questions? Comments? Thank you. Zero emission bus program.
All right. So our zero emission bus program has several different facets. You can see in the little gears here. But last year we held a symposium for regional partner staff as well as a roundtable for commissioners. And we have started a working group, which I'll tell you a little bit about on the next slide. And then we've applied for a DRPT technical assistance grant for a regional strategic plan for zero emission bus. And our idea behind this is to continue the successful model that we've had with regional fare collection, which is to support and coordinate on a regional level and provide provide coordination for the region, but also allow each of the regional partners to work within their own goals and constraints, and as well as policies. So on your next slide, I'll talk to you a little bit about the zero emission bus working group. So the working group, our first meeting was on March 31st, and it was very enthusiastically attended. There was lots of great discussion and lots of enthusiasm. But basically, the purpose behind the working group is for agencies to build capacity, work together, and realize economies of scale through thinking regionally. And we worked in the group and in separate discussions. We've worked with the regional partners and talked about opportunities for this working group as well as the strategic planning process. Some of those opportunities we heard were for transition planning, so fleet transition, as well as procurement coordination, as we've done on other programs with regional riders and working on the contracts to make sure we can realize economies of scale through procurements, as well as funding similarly, and then opportunities for partnerships with utilities as well as other partners. And then receiving technical expertise, so bringing in experts to provide this information on a more of a regional scale, and opportunities for things like shared infrastructure. We've heard discussions about possibly sharing charging infrastructure or bus maintenance infrastructure, and then status tracking. So we want partners to be able to share the expertise they've learned and learn from one another, and also the possibility of providing an information repository, so to have a place where the standards are stored and building a body of knowledge for Northern Virginia for zero emission bus. And so what we're going to do is we're going to provide a full update at the July meeting. And but this is kind of a status of where we are right now. And we'll also have more information at that point about the actually, I think at the end of April, we'll know a little bit more about the DRPT technical assistance grant for this strategic plan.
And just to add, the enthusiasm from the operators about this working group is huge. They were incredibly thankful that they can all collaborate. And these are the operators, these are the folks who are day-to-day working with our bus systems. And it was really, I think this was definitely filling at the right time a space that they're very appreciative of. So kudos to Patricia, because she and actually went at it. for organizing that.
A couple questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, Libby, go ahead.
All right, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, this is really exciting. I was just sort of thinking, listening to it, this is we have to work regionally. If we all work separately, we would be really in a bad way. Question for you. I think the zero bus emission, the buses themselves, the technology keeps improving constantly, I think. And I know they've had problems. How is that working? That end of it, the vehicles themselves, are they continuing to have kind of steady breakthroughs and do better? Or has it sort of plateaued on the changes we see? And I guess included in that question is, I assume we have to buy American. We can't buy buses from somewhere else. Is that the case?
Great question. I think a lot of that will be, I know that technology is continuing to improve. And I also know that a lot of these things will be what we'll be talking about during the strategic planning process. We'll be looking at how to take advantage of the best aspects of what is going on and how to strategically place ourselves in things like the Buy America program.
Thank you very much. And if I can just, sorry, I've grabbed the mic. I assume you're also talking to our colleagues in Maryland and DC. I mean, it's fun, because this is Northern Virginia, but all of us are used. I assume that there's some coordination possibly going. I see the headlines. Great. Thank you.
Yes, there is.
I'm good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I had one, is Metro participating
Yes,
and at what level?
they are part of the working group.
But at a policy make at a senior level?
Their director of zero emission, I think Amy Misrobian is part of and Maya Alunkel are part of the working group. So also as we, if we do the strategic plan, we'll very strategically build a team of stakeholders to assist with the strategic planning process.
And I know, Kate, you have significant experience at the federal level. Are we tied in to the whole federal grant, infrastructure program so that we don't lose, even as we plan, we don't lose opportunities to reach out for funding?
So indeed, all of our jurisdictions are looped in on the timing and the requirements of FTA's low and no emission bus program. That is authorized for the next 5 years. I do believe at least one of our jurisdictions is applying this year, which is actually very fast because there's a lot of requirements just getting there, actually having their own plans. But all of them that I've heard voiced interest. In particular, I'm pretty sure that WMATA will be playing in that space. And so we will continue to keep and help however we can our jurisdictions take advantage of that $1.5 billion a year.
Okay, so we're tying into the whole federal sort of legislative and funding process. So we're not going to let that go by, even as we do some planning. In other words, we're very much.
I'm hoping, that obviously it's up to the individual jurisdictions, their approach to that, but they have been very well informed of the opportunities that are presented.
Much appreciated. Your expertise there is yet one more critical element to which you provide the region. Thank you so much. Any other questions or thoughts on this one? What are you looking for from us, Kate? Just
I honestly, this is just to make sure you're continuing to be informed. This is an exciting part of our work that doesn't often get presented to the commission. So we want to just let you know what's going on. I guess we will be coming back if we get the award of this grant, which is fingers crossed on that. We'll be coming back for a request for proposals approval probably in July. Oh, June, even better. So.
A small question. Is the award, predicated on a certain type of no emissions technology? It's the battery. Okay.
There's a strategic reason for the use of zero emission.
Yes.
It does not say electric, it does not
understand.
say anything else. It's about zero
Okay.
emission strategic plan, yes.
Okay.
okay, pretty important stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Route 7 BRT, and So we'll hear an update. And Alan, turn to you. We have introduction of the new staff member, right?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to introduce everybody to Xavier Harmony. He joined us, I think, 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago now. It's been a learning curve getting into NVPC, diving into a lot of different work. He joined us most recently from Metro. He has a lot of history now with DRPT. Works very closely with the colleagues we work over there with in the Northern Virginia office. So we just want to introduce everybody to Xavier. He's going to be taking the lead on the Route 7 project that a lot of you are very familiar with. And then also on a lot of the data analysis. We've been accumulating data over the years from lots of different sources. So he's going to really help us dive in, him and Sophie, dive in, see what we can do with that data, great stories we can tell, crunch the numbers lots of different ways. So look forward to over the next year seeing some really, really fun visual presentations about transit in Northern Virginia. So Xavier, take a look.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, all. So as Alan mentioned, you're probably all very familiar with the Vision Route 7 so far, and hopefully there won't be much new for you today. This is more an informational item for you. As a reminder, starting on page 13, the Envision Route 7 project is a BIT project, a form of high quality bus transit that connects Tysons from Spring Hill Metro approximately on the metro system, all the way through 4 jurisdictions down to Mark Center in Alexandria, and touches East Falls Church as it goes through that corridor. So on the next slide, there is a project timeline. We've gone through 3 phases so far, and when I was at the FET, I was involved in some of this previous work. But right now we're in phase 4, the mobility study, and we're about to look into the next 5 phases. And this is the reason I'm talking to you this morning. We are looking to put out an RFP for a strategic implementation plan that's going to look at how we want to approach this next more meaty section of this planning effort. So what is this strategic implementation plan? On the next page, we give a little more detail. It's essentially a complementary effort for the Envision Route 7 project led by us at MPTC that serves as a flexible, adaptable strategic roadmap for the commission and staff. So basically, it's an addition to the other phases that you saw on the previous page that really helps us guide how we will approach the future work for this project. So there are 3 key issues that we're planning to address with this work. First is project governance. As I mentioned before, this project covers 4 jurisdictions. And as you might imagine, it can be a little complicated figuring out who's going to be building what, who's going to be operating what. There's a lot of complicated stuff going in there. Hopefully this, one of the objectives is to figure out how this project will be governed in the future. Next is the phase implementation. Some of the phases might happen simultaneously, some might happen sequentially. There are, of course, resource constraints at MTC and otherwise, and the phase implementation helps us figure out some of that kind of stuff. And then finally, and definitely not least important, is the strategic funding decisions. This is a project that we've been working with for several years now, and there's going to be some really important discussions around how some of these future phases will be funded, both in terms of the planning efforts, the construction efforts, and the operation efforts. So this strategic implementation plan will cover some of the strategic funding decisions and help us put together a game plan to figure out how we will actually approach the funding side of that. Throughout this strategic implementation plan, we'll engage the PAC, of course, the commission, and then staff level, trying to get a variety of voices into the room to look at what the plan is looking forward. I would also be remiss if I did not mention that this strategic implementation plan will be a partnership between us at MVTC as well as Fairfax County. The most important thing that I want to mention today is that the MPTC staff will seek approval to release the RFP at the May Commission meeting. So this is just to give you a heads up that this is coming soon, so that you're aware it's coming, you're not surprised at the May Commission meeting. So looking to slide 16, which I believe is my last slide, this gives you an overview of some of the work we're doing right now and where the strategic implementation plan fits with everything. So as I mentioned earlier, right now we're in phase 4, which is mobility study. So there's data collection, modeling, simulation going on throughout the summer, basically. It's happening right now. But we see that in May, we have the RFP for the strategic implementation roadmap. And in July, hopefully we can meet and have the commission approve the award for the strategic implementation roadmap. And then following on from that, in the fall, we will have some public outreach and public meetings from the current phase 4 work. And before I hand off, I believe Kate has some additional comments.
Well, I was to say, part of the reason we want to be doing this strategic plan is to identify funding opportunities. And one of the things that we may be able to take advantage of is congressional funding, project funding specifically by members of Congress. Those are some of the things that are being explored right now, whether it be this year or in future. And so part of the benefit of doing a strategic plan is knowing when and what program and what element should we be looking for other funds, whether it be anything from sort of smart scale to US DOT raise to potentially a community funded project, aka earmark from one of our members of Congress. And so those are some things that we're working very actively on. This framework's going to be very, very important as we do that. We have been engaging in some of our local congressional folks to see if there's possibilities this year. We'll just keep our fingers crossed for how that may work. So.
Thanks very much. Any questions? Comments? Yes.
Thank you. On a project timeline, the dates that are on there are the completion dates for the first 3 phases. There are no dates for the subsequent 6 phases. Can we dates on things?
That's fantastic. Part of the plan will be able to do that.
Huh?
That's part of doing the plan. What are the steps and how long will they take?
I know.
Yep.
I mean, it's been years. It would be nice to know what phase 9 operation we're talking 25 years from now or 5 years. No.
Absolutely, and I think that is a regional conversation. Because it involves 4 regional bodies, we want to make sure we're doing everything in sync with the priorities of the 4 groups. But that is exactly one of the purposes of doing this small strategic plan effort, is to be putting some more certainty to the future of this project. Yeah. I share your frustration.
Libby, did you have a comment?
I had two questions, if I might, Mr. Chair, if that's all right.
Sure.
Just cut me off if it's not. First, on project governance, could you elaborate a little bit more on the kinds of models we might be looking at? And I guess where I'm heading to is, might I find myself possibly sitting at this table with a very similar group of people, but the whole focus is it's a board that's actually managing this, particularly this bus line, this BRT line? Or yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of wondering how you're thinking of what the options are.
So I think that's what we're going to look at with this, is what are those options out there. I don't necessarily think we see it as a independent board running one particular line. It is the coordination between all the different jurisdictions that are here, but there are policy and political and funding decisions we made. So we're going to be actually asking folks who have dealt with, the experts out there that have dealt with this type of project before, what do you recommend to how do we get this going? There are regions across the country that are very fragmented, kind of like Northern Virginia, I think LA, San Francisco, a couple other places where they've dealt with these challenges of getting cross-border lines, make sure that everybody's talking, everybody's on the same page, and everybody's making decisions at the right time they need to. So the reason for the political engagement is to ensure that political support from you all through the PAC, through this committee, through whatever body they recommend, make sure those are all in sync.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so it's not like you've got a set number of options in mind right now that you're going to look through. You don't have a menu. You're really going to kind of start from, got it. All right, thank you. And then another question, I think I ask this every time. Looking at the map, this lovely map that goes, there's a little loop at the top around Tyson's Corner, it comes all the way down. And of course, I'm thinking about going down Columbia Pike to Crystal City, where the Metroway is, and Amazon and all those things. And wouldn't it be wonderful if at the other south end, there was also a loop through Arlington that would connect with the existing, the work that is on Route 1, I think it is, that Alexandria's done and that we're planning to do. And that would make a whole lot of sense and remind me why that's not on the map. But maybe it's just because of where it started in the first place. But could that loop be added at some point?
I think that's something I know you asked about this a couple of times, but what I'm going to do is actually saw a map the other day when I was thinking around.
Yes, I do. I ask it every time. I'm so sorry.
We have a map of actually BRT plans for Northern Virginia. This is showing you just one of them. There are multiple being planned, and that map is a really good visual of how they all start to connect together. So I think we'll work on getting an updated version of that and get it out there so you can kind of see how the network comes together. where folks are connecting to, where they're transferring to and from, and see kind of the 40,000 foot view of the Virginia BRT.
Okay, thank you. And maybe the short answer is, Mrs. Garvey, this is Plan Route 7, and that route is off of Route 7. Is that maybe part of it as well? Just kind of want to keep that out there, though. I really, for Mrs. Garvey, at some point you can put a different color in there with some added routes, and I'd feel happier. But that's all right. Thank you.
And that, yeah, that's interesting. We do want to make sure that we don't shortchange connectivity as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's incredible ridership, I think, to be gained by looping through both Amazon and the Virginia Tech campus, which I think we all know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments on this?
Just a question on the map. The nodal points of the stops are just a preliminary depiction of where, right?
Those were selected based on analysis. I think phase 3 analysis can pinpoint where the actual stops are. They could shift 20 feet, 50 feet when you do the engineering, but those are what were selected for the best ridership, the best connections to the land use route.
Okay, so that means also this will be evaluated also by the connectivity they would have to other lines, etc. This is the key.
There's other BRT they connect to, the local bus services that happen in one line to the corridor connect to east west. So there's a lot of that connection that's gone into the analysis.
Yeah, I think that what people see mostly is there are two criteria. First is how fast am I going from A to B? So how much preferable is this modal? The second is how easy can I connect to something else and jump? And I think this is really I know in our region, especially in the poor region, this has been always a key element. How much time am I going to sacrifice for the connectivity as opposed to one ride?
The current analysis we're doing now, I think one of the factors, correct me if I'm wrong, Zay, there is a travel time predictions, a travel time savings, and that's something we're definitely diving very deeply into to make sure that there is some value. And all the analysis we've done over the years has shown that you will be able to save time and move people very effectively along.
Correct. I mean, the major challenge here is how I mean, BRT comes in many levels of service. So the minimum I would expect to evaluate here is complete dedication of the bus lane. So that's what produces the speed.
Yeah, so there, the phase 3 actually goes into a lot more detail too. It shows where there's dedicated bus lane and where, for various reasons, dedicated bus lane might not be recommended. But one of the key parts as well is also the high frequency. So the idea of high frequency is that you don't have to think about the schedule when you want to catch a bus. And that's one of those big advantages of BRT, that high quality bus network, where it comes so frequently, if you just go to a bus stop, there'll be a bus within minutes. And so that's one of those advantages of that.
Oh, absolutely. The level of service, though, is, I mean, dedicated bus lanes make the level of service easier.
Right.
And there is about 30% of that route that has serious problems with that. So that's why.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I've got a one-off. if I
Please,
can.
Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
So we're eagerly anticipating the opening of phase 2 Silver Line in what could be 2057 at this point. But it's an interesting challenge that we have, because we're basically taking an auto-centric suburbia and educating them that you can now use Metro. This cycle is a 2-year cycle, commuter choice, right? So the next cycle is 25, 26. Okay, and that means applications for those projects will have to be in January 24.
Yes.
Right, right. Okay, so things I'm thinking of. So I've already ridden the route from Lansdowne down to the Ashburn Metro to identify problems for cyclists to get down there. They're prodigious. But we're working on that. But there are things like Boston has a bike lockers at their Metro stops because people will steal wheels and handlebars and seats and all kinds of stuff. these are lockers. You actually put your bike into the locker and lock the locker. Which probably is too expensive and probably for reduction or encouraging more riders for the established stations, not that high. But we got a chance to build it organically at the start right now. Are those the kinds of projects that we could submit to the commuter choice program for consideration, or is that way out of the ballpark?
The definition is pretty broad of what's eligible in there, but the caution that we give to all of our applicants is that our requirement for the MOA would come with, we have to be able to show that people are moving through the corridor or facilitating that movement through there. Some of the different projects, buses move really well, a couple other ones. Some of the other ones, it gets a little more challenging, which you kind of actually see in the score. And here is, if you're not moving lots of people, you can't demonstrate that you're moving them. That's where it gets a little more challenging.
So volume is a high scoring project.
Volume is very much
Okay.
is very much important. But we would actually encourage folks, we're always happy to sit down with folks and talk through ideas, and Ben and his team do that before each cycle. If you have ideas, you have questions for us, we can kind of help guide them of where they should, give them some feedback of what we think might actually make sense within the corridor, what might actually score pretty well.
And how outside the box can we go? So for example, we're going to need, I would think, a fairly robust marketing program to advertise the fact that the Silver Line is now open and operating, and here's some good deals we have going on. So that would be good. And the other problem is we're baselining this. I mean, we don't have anything to compare it to. So it's hard to say, oh, look, the improvement in use of Metro, because we have no prior use of Metro. So just some weird ideas that are kind of for things that we have that nobody else is having to deal with it.
And we're happy to talk through ideas with staff and
Great.
brainstorm some of those with them and get them some feedback. We're always happy for those conversations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and which goes back to the question I asked Kate, which is, we need to be clear about what this agreement is and what the current criteria are. There are, what should I say, benefits and potential risks in trying to open up that agreement at this point. So we need to figure that out. It does, however, tend to drive towards supporting bus routes and hard infrastructure as opposed to trails, bicycle, pedestrian. So
Well, that makes sense. If it's a volume driven
yeah,
formula.
I think you laid it out well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
We've had this discussion that program intentionally is skewed to macro systems. And I also agree, though, that I think we're all seasoned politicos and bureaucrats that you reopen it and you have the unintended consequences you have to be careful about. So I'm not in favor. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we revisit it.
Right.
But for the small jurisdictions and for those that are starting with a blank slate,
Right.
it's a challenge.
Excellent discussion. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up?
One thing to clarify, this is probably the last time we can meet on this particular program, but just to put out there for the summer and into the fall, the next round for commuter choice is actually 395. So we will be reconvening the Joint Commission Working Group, which is a joint committee of a couple folks from PRTC, a couple folks from this committee, so we'll be reaching out later on this summer, figure out the timing of that, and then we'll work with you, Mr. Chair, on the selection of folks that will be part of that subgroup. We've done it a couple of times over the past few years. And again, we'll work with PRTC and appointees sometimes. So stand by, we don't have an exact date or timeline, but we will be in touch about that probably over the summer.
Anybody have anything else? Well, first of all, let me thank all the committee members. Incredibly busy time of year for reasons which we all know. And I want to thank everybody who participated. I want to especially thank staff for an amazing amount of work in so many different areas, and it really helped us move things forward. And of course, anyone in the public question. Thank you all very much. Does anybody object if we adjourn? No objection. Thank you.
Can I just say thank you? Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. I think I might have given Rhonda a headache. Thank you. Thanks.
Sure.
No, I gave you.